You think the odds matter? They don't. Only your resolve does. A warrior does not ask how hard the battle will be. He asks, "What must I become to win it?" Impossible is a word used by those who have already surrendered. Not you, not now. You move forward, not with hope, but with certainty. Because even one man, prepared and unwavering, can change everything. Subscribe to our channel if you're ready to master your mind. And tell us, where are you watching from? Listen to me carefully. Before you draw your sword, before you study your enemy, before you count their numbers or measure their strength, you must first make a choice. This choice is not tactical. It is not strategic. It is deeper than technique. It is the foundation upon which everything else is built. You must decide that you will not lose. Not that you might win. Not that you hope to win. That you will not lose. There is a difference between these thoughts, and that difference will determine whether you live or die. Most men enter battle with doubt already planted in their minds. They look at the enemy's strength and begin calculating their chances. They weigh probabilities. They measure resources. They count swords and men and supplies. This is the thinking of merchants, not warriors. A true warrior begins with a different calculation. He asks not, "Can I win?" but "What will it take?" He does not wonder if victory is possible. He decides victory is inevitable, then works backward from that certainty. When I faced 66 opponents in my life, I never once asked myself if I could defeat them. That question was meaningless. I had already decided they would fall. The only question that mattered was how quickly I could make it so. This is not arrogance. This is clarity. When you remove the possibility of defeat from your mind, your entire focus shifts. You stop wasting energy on fear. You stop calculating escape routes. You stop preparing excuses for failure. All of that mental power, every ounce of it, gets redirected toward one thing: finding the way through. But here's what most people don't understand about this mindset. It's not blind optimism. It's not foolish confidence. It's a commitment that goes deeper than emotion. It's a decision that transcends circumstance. You see, when you truly decide you will not lose, you also accept something else. You accept that the price of victory might be everything you have: your comfort, your safety, your old way of thinking, even your life as you know it. You accept that transformation is not optional. It's the entry fee. This is where most people falter. They want victory, but they want to remain who they are. They want to win, but they want to keep their limitations. They want the impossible, but they refuse to become impossible themselves. The warrior understands differently. The warrior knows that to face impossible odds, you must first become someone who makes impossible things happen. You must shed the person who would surrender. You must kill the voice that whispers about retreat. When you face your impossible situation, and you will face it, remember this moment. Remember that victory begins not with strategy, but with decision. Not with hope, but with commitment. Not with calculation, but with the unshakable resolve that defeat is not an option you will consider. The odds do not determine the outcome. Your will does. Choose now. Choose completely. Choose without reservation, because the battle is already won or lost in the moment you make that choice. What will you choose? Do not count your resources. Count your resolve. The sharpest weapon is not in your hand. It is your mind. Men collect swords thinking steel makes them strong. They gather allies thinking numbers make them safe. They accumulate wealth thinking gold makes them powerful. These men understand nothing about true strength. The weapon is not what you hold. The weapon is what you are. I have seen warriors with perfect technique fall to men who barely knew how to grip their blade. I have watched armies with superior numbers scatter before a single man who refused to break. I have observed the wealthy beg for mercy from those who owned nothing but their own unshakable will. What separated the victors from the defeated? Not their tools, not their advantages, their understanding of what they truly were. You are not a person who happens to carry Weapons. You are a weapon that happens to inhabit a human form. Every part of you, your mind, your body, your spirit, must be sharpened to a single purpose. Every thought must cut. Every movement must strike. Every breath must serve the outcome. When you grasp this truth, everything changes. You stop relying on external things to make you strong. You stop waiting for perfect conditions to act. You stop making excuses about what you lack because you realize you already possess the only tool that matters. Your mind is your primary weapon. It cuts through confusion and sees clearly. Your body is your secondary weapon. It moves without hesitation when your mind commands. Your spirit is your ultimate weapon. It endures when flesh would fail and mind would doubt. But here's what separates the amateur from the master. The amateur tries to add weapons to his collection. The master works to remove everything that is not weapon. The amateur accumulates. The master eliminates. What in your life is not serving your purpose? What thoughts cloud your clarity? What habits weaken your resolve? What relationships drain your power? What possessions own you instead of you owning them? Cut them away, all of them, without mercy, without sentimentality, without excuse. A blade is strongest when everything unnecessary has been removed. Steel refined in fire burns away impurities. What remains is pure. What remains is sharp. What remains is ready. This is not about becoming harsh. This is about becoming focused. This is not about becoming cruel. This is about becoming clear. This is not about becoming empty. This is about becoming essential. When I walked the warrior's path, I owned nothing that did not serve the way. I ate only what kept me sharp. I spoke only words that moved me forward. I spent time only with those who made me stronger. Everything else was distraction. Everything else was weakness. You think you need more to succeed. You need less. You think you need better tools. You need to become the tool. You think you need favorable conditions. You need to become the force that creates favorable conditions. The moment you realize that you are the weapon, everything shifts. You stop looking outside yourself for power. You stop waiting for permission to act. You stop depending on circumstances to align. You become the force that cuts through every obstacle. Your opponents will study your technique. Let them. They cannot study your essence. Your enemies will count your resources. Let them. They cannot measure your resolve. Your critics will analyze your methods. Let them. They cannot comprehend your transformation. Because when you become the weapon, you become something they cannot prepare for. You become something they cannot predict. You become something they cannot defeat with conventional thinking. The sword you carry is just metal until your spirit gives it life. The strategy you employ is just theory until your will makes it real. The training you complete is just practice until your purpose makes it deadly. You are the weapon. Everything else is just extension. Remember this when the odds seem impossible. Remember this when your tools seem inadequate. Remember this when your resources seem few. You are enough. You have always been enough. Now prove it. Panic blurs vision. The calm mind sees patterns. Advantage hides in chaos if you can see through it. In the heat of battle, most men become blind. Their heart races. Their breathing becomes shallow. Their vision narrows to a tunnel. They see only what is directly in front of them. They miss everything else. This blindness kills them. The warrior who survives impossible odds sees differently. He sees everything. He sees the obvious and the hidden. He sees what is and what is becoming. He sees patterns where others see only chaos. This is not a gift you are born with. This is a skill you must develop. Like any skill, it requires practice. Like any practice, it requires discipline. Like any discipline, it requires sacrifice. You must sacrifice the luxury of emotional reaction. When the pressure mounts, when the stakes rise, when the enemy advances, you cannot afford the energy that emotion demands. Fear wants to flood your system. Anger wants to cloud your judgment. Excitement wants to scatter your focus. You must Refuse them all, not because you do not feel them, you are human, you will feel them, but because you have trained yourself to feel them without being controlled by them. The emotion passes through you like wind through bamboo. You bend but do not break. You acknowledge but do not surrender. In this state of calm awareness, you begin to see what others miss. You notice the small hesitation in your opponent's stance. You recognize the pattern in their attacks. You identify the moment when their confidence becomes overconfidence. You spot the gap in their defense. But here's what most people don't understand about seeing clearly. It's not just about seeing your enemy. It's about seeing yourself, your own patterns, your own weaknesses, your own opportunities. When fear grips you, what do? When anger rises, where do you go? When pressure builds, how do you respond? These are not mysteries. These are patterns. And patterns can be changed. The amateur reacts to what has already happened. The master responds to what is about to happen. The amateur sees the strike that landed. The master sees the strike that is forming. The amateur fights the last attack. The master prevents the next one. This level of sight requires stillness within movement. It requires calm within chaos. It requires clarity within confusion. Most men think this is impossible. They believe you must choose between action and awareness, between speed and precision, between power and perception. This is the thinking of those who have never truly mastered themselves. The true warrior discovers that calm and action are not opposites. They are partners. The clearer you see, the faster you can act. The more precise your perception, the more powerful your response. When I faced multiple opponents, I did not see multiple threats. I saw one pattern with multiple parts. I saw the rhythm of their coordination. I saw the moment when their timing would break. I saw the opening that would allow me to divide them. I saw the sequence that would turn their numbers against them. This sight did not come naturally. It came from years of training my mind to remain calm under pressure. It came from hundreds of encounters where I chose clarity over emotion. It came from countless moments where I refused to let chaos blind me to opportunity. You can develop this same sight, but you must start now. You must begin with small pressures and build your tolerance. You must practice maintaining calm when stakes are low, so you can access that calm when stakes are high. Watch yourself in traffic. Do you react with emotion or respond with awareness? Observe yourself in arguments. Do you see only your opponent's words, or do you also see their patterns? Notice yourself under deadlines. Do you panic or do you perceive? These everyday moments are your training ground. These ordinary pressures are your practice. These common challenges are your preparation for the impossible ones. When chaos comes, and it will come, you will not be overwhelmed by it. You will see through it. You will find the patterns within it. You will discover the advantage hidden inside it. This is how one person defeats many. This is how the weak overcome the strong. This is how the impossible becomes inevitable. Open your eyes. See clearly. See completely. See calmly. Victory awaits those who can perceive it before it arrives. What worked yesterday may not work today. Do not cling to form. Be water. Adjust without emotion. The most dangerous warrior is not the one with perfect technique. It is the one who can abandon that technique the moment it no longer serves. The most dangerous mind is not the one filled with knowledge. It is the one willing to forget what it knows when the situation demands something new. Rigidity is death. Flexibility is life. This is true in combat. This is true in everything. I have watched master swordsmen fall to untrained farmers because they could not adapt their elegant forms to crude reality. I have seen brilliant generals lose to simple tacticians because they clung to strategies that no longer matched the battlefield. I have observed successful methods become deadly traps when conditions changed. The amateur spends years perfecting one approach. The master spends years learning to perfect whatever approach the moment requires. The amateur becomes an expert. In form. The master becomes an expert in adaptation. When you face impossible odds, your old methods will not work. If they would work, the odds would not be impossible. You must become someone who can invent new methods in real time. You must become someone who can think thoughts you have never thought before. You must become someone who can act in ways you have never acted before. This terrifies most people. They want certainty. They want to know exactly what they will do before they have to do it. They want their response planned, practiced, and perfected. They want guarantees that their method will work. But the impossible situation offers no such comfort. It demands that you step into the unknown. It requires that you trust your ability to figure things out as you go. It asks you to become comfortable with uncertainty while maintaining confidence in your adaptability. Here's what I learned through 66 life and death encounters. The warrior who survives is not the one who never gets surprised. It is the one who recovers from surprise faster than his opponent can capitalize on it. It is the one who turns unexpected events into unexpected opportunities. When your plan fails, and it will fail, you cannot waste time mourning its failure. You cannot spend energy cursing the circumstances that broke it. You cannot pause to feel sorry for yourself or angry at the unfairness. You must immediately shift to creating a new plan based on new conditions. This requires a different relationship with failure. Most people see failure as the end of possibility. The adaptive warrior sees failure as information. The plan failed. Good. Now you know something you did not know before. Now you can try something else. Now you can move closer to what works. But here's what most people don't understand about adaptation. It's not just about changing your tactics, it's about changing yourself. The situation that requires a new approach often requires a new version of you. You must be willing to become that new version. Are you too proud to use simple methods when elegant ones fail? Are you too attached to your reputation to try approaches that might look awkward? Are you too invested in your identity to become someone different when different is what the situation demands? These attachments will kill you, not just in combat, in life. The person you were yesterday might not be the person today's challenge requires. Be willing to shed that person. Be willing to become what the moment needs. I learned this lesson fighting opponents who used styles I had never encountered. My traditional training was useless against their unconventional attacks. I had two choices: lose while maintaining my perfect form, or win by abandoning that form entirely. The choice was obvious. I became water. I flowed around their rigid patterns. I found the spaces between their techniques. I used their expectations against them. I became whatever the situation required me to become. You can develop this same adaptability. Start by questioning your assumptions about how things must be done. Start by experimenting with different approaches to familiar problems. Start by practicing the art of letting go when letting go serves you better than holding on. When faced with the impossible, remember this: you are not limited to who you have been. You are not bound by methods that no longer work. You are not required to fight today's battle with yesterday's weapons. You can change. You can adapt. You can become whatever victory requires you to become. This is not weakness. This is the ultimate strength. This is not compromise. This is wisdom. This is not surrender. This is evolution. Adapt or die. The choice is always yours. Choose adaptation. Choose evolution. Choose victory. The greater their force, the more they can be redirected. Let them overcommit, then cut through the gap. Size is not always strength. Sometimes size is vulnerability. Weight can be power, but weight can also be momentum that cannot be stopped once it begins moving in the wrong direction. The wise warrior does not try to match force with force. He uses force against itself. When you face an opponent much larger than yourself, you have two choices. You can try to be stronger than they are, which is impossible. Or you can make their strength work for you, which is inevitable if you understand the principles. The mountain is unmovable until you learn to use its own weight to create an avalanche. The river is unstoppable until you redirect its flow to turn your mill. The storm is uncontrollable until you set your sail to catch its wind. Your enemy's greatest strength contains the seed of their greatest weakness. But you must learn to see this. You must train your mind to look not at what is overwhelming about their force, but at what is unbalanced about it. Too much power in one direction creates emptiness in another direction. Too much commitment to one strategy creates blindness to other possibilities. Too much confidence in their advantage creates carelessness in their defense. When I fought opponents who attacked with tremendous force, I did not try to block that force. I moved slightly aside and let their momentum carry them past their target. When they committed everything to a devastating strike, I was no longer where that strike would land. Their power hit nothing but air, and their recovery left them exposed. This is not about being weak. This is about being efficient. This is not about avoiding confrontation. This is about controlling when and where that confrontation happens. This is not about running away. This is about making them come to you on your terms instead of meeting them on theirs. But here's what most people don't understand about this principle. It works in all areas of life, not just physical combat. When someone attacks your position with overwhelming arguments, you don't have to match their volume or their aggression. You can step aside and let their emotion carry them into territory where logic is more important than passion. When a competitor uses massive resources to attack your market, you don't have to match their spending. You can redirect your efforts to areas where their size makes them slow to respond, and your agility gives you advantage. When life hits you with problems that seem too big to handle, you don't have to absorb the full impact. You can find the angle that lets the problem's own weight work in your favor. The key is patience. You must let them overcommit before you redirect. If you move too early, they can adjust. If you move too late, their force will crush you. You must wait for the precise moment when their momentum is too great to change, but not yet too great to redirect. This requires supreme confidence in your own timing. It requires absolute trust in your ability to act at exactly the right moment. It requires complete clarity about what that right moment looks like. Most people panic when they see great force approaching. They react immediately. They waste their energy trying to stop something that cannot be stopped. They try to prevent something that should be redirected instead. The master remains calm as the force approaches. He studies its direction. He calculates its speed. He identifies its point of maximum commitment. He prepares his redirect. He waits, and then, at the perfect moment, he acts, not with great force of his own, but with precise application of minimal effort at the exact point where minimal effort produces maximum result. The enemy's own power becomes the source of their defeat. When you face impossible odds, remember this principle. Their size is not just their advantage, it is also their limitation. Their power is not just their strength, it is also their vulnerability. Their momentum is not just their weapon, it is also your opportunity. Do not try to be stronger than they are. Instead, become more skilled at using strength against itself. Do not try to hit harder than they hit. Instead, become more precise about where to apply pressure. Do not try to move faster than they move. Instead, become more accurate about when to move. The greatest victories come not from overwhelming force, but from perfect timing applied at exactly the right angle. Learn this principle. Master this timing. Use their weight against them. This is how David defeats Goliath. This is how one overcomes many. This is how the impossible becomes inevitable. Let them overcommit. Then cut through the gap. Victory belongs to those who understand that the enemy's strength can become their weakness if you know where and when to apply the leverage. When the situation is impossible, waste nothing. Every movement, every breath, every thought must serve the outcome. Survival demands efficiency. Victory requires precision. When you face overwhelming odds, you cannot afford a single wasted motion. You cannot spare a moment for irrelevant thoughts. You cannot invest energy in actions that do not move you toward your goal. Most people live their lives surrounded by waste. Wasted time on meaningless activities, wasted energy on pointless conversations, wasted attention on things they cannot control, wasted emotion on events that do not matter. This waste is luxury they can afford when life is easy. When life becomes impossible, luxury becomes lethal. The warrior facing death has no room for the unnecessary. Every calorie must fuel. Essential function. Every second must advance necessary purpose. Every decision must eliminate what does not serve and strengthen what does. This is not about becoming a machine. This is about becoming refined. This is not about losing your humanity. This is about discovering what humanity truly requires when stripped of all pretense. When I walked alone through hostile territory, I carried only what I needed. I ate only what sustained me. I spoke only when silence would not serve better. I thought only thoughts that sharpened my awareness or clarified my purpose. Everything else was eliminated without sentiment. This elimination revealed something powerful. Beneath all the unnecessary things I had carried, beneath all the pointless habits I had maintained, beneath all the scattered concerns I had entertained, there was something pure, something essential, something unbreakable. There was the core of what I actually was. And that core was far stronger than all the accumulated additions I had mistaken for strength. You have this same core, but you may not know it exists because it is buried beneath layers of the unnecessary. Your true power is hidden beneath habits that weaken you, thoughts that scatter you, activities that drain you, and relationships that diminish you. The impossible situation does you a favor. It strips away everything that is not essential. It burns off everything that is not real. It reveals what you are when everything else is gone. But here's what most people don't understand about this process. The cutting away is not something that happens to you. It is something you must choose to do. The situation may force you to consider it, but you must actively decide to eliminate what does not serve. Look at your daily routine. What actions produce no meaningful result? Cut them. Look at your mental habits. What thoughts create no useful outcome? Eliminate them. Look at your emotional patterns. What feelings generate no positive change? Release them. This is not about becoming cold. This is about becoming focused. This is not about caring less. This is about caring more precisely. This is not about reducing your humanity. This is about concentrating your humanity on what matters most. The blade is sharpest when everything that is not edge has been removed. The arrow flies truest when everything that is not essential flight has been eliminated. The warrior is strongest when everything that is not necessary strength has been cut away. When you remove the unnecessary, what remains is not less than what you were before. What remains is more concentrated, more powerful, more effective than what you were when diluted by distractions. Most people fear this elimination. They fear they will lose something important. They fear they will become diminished. They fear they will discover there is nothing essential beneath all the accumulated non-essentials. This fear keeps them weak. This fear keeps them scattered. This fear keeps them vulnerable when the impossible arrives. But you will not be ruled by this fear. You will embrace the cutting away. You will welcome the elimination. You will trust that what survives the purification is worth more than everything that does not. When facing impossible odds, remember this principle. You do not need more things. You need fewer things that matter more. You do not need more options. You need clearer focus on the right option. You do not need more time. You need better use of the time you have. Cut away the unnecessary. All of it without mercy, without hesitation, without regret. What remains will be enough. What remains will be powerful. What remains will be you at your most essential. And your most essential self is capable of impossible things. Do not complain. Do not explain. Speak only with your actions. Just train, adjust, execute. Excuses are the language of defeat. Explanations are the refuge of the weak. When you face impossible odds, you have no time for either. You have only time for one thing: Making what must happen happen. The moment you begin to explain why something is difficult, you have already begun to accept that it might not be possible. The moment you start listing the obstacles, you have already started building the case for your own failure. The moment you begin to justify why it might not work, you have already given yourself permission to quit. Warriors do not explain. They execute. They do not complain about conditions. They adapt to conditions. They do not make cases for why victory is difficult. They make victory happen despite difficulty. This is not about being unrealistic. This is about being uncompromising. This is not about ignoring challenges. This is about refusing to use challenges as reasons to surrender. When I faced opponents who had every advantage, better weapons, more training, favorable ground, superior numbers, I did not waste energy cataloging these disadvantages. I did not spend time explaining to myself or others why this fight would be difficult. I used that energy for one purpose, finding the way to win anyway. The facts were obvious to everyone present. The odds were clear. The challenges were real. But speaking about them changed nothing except to drain power from my focus and feed doubt into my mind. So I spoke about them not at all. I let my sword do the speaking. This principle extends far beyond combat. In every area of life you will face situations where the obstacles are real, the odds are poor, and the reasonable thing to do would be to lower your expectations or abandon your goals entirely. But here's what most people don't understand about this moment. The moment you begin to argue for your limitations, you ensure those limitations will control you. The moment you begin to build a case for why something cannot be done, you become the most convincing advocate for your own defeat. Your mind believes what you tell it most often. If you tell it repeatedly about all the reasons why success is difficult, it will believe success is difficult. If you tell it constantly about all the obstacles that stand in your way, it will see obstacles everywhere. If you fill it daily with explanations for why progress is slow, it will create slow progress. But if you tell it nothing except what needs to be done next, it will focus on doing what needs to be done next. If you feed it only information about solutions, it will become solution-oriented. If you train it to look for ways forward, instead of reasons to stop, it will find ways forward. The strongest warriors I knew were often the quietest about their struggles. They spoke little about their training. They said nothing about their pain. They offered no commentary on their challenges. They simply showed up, did the work, and let their results speak for themselves. This was not because they felt no pain or faced no challenges. This was because they understood that energy spent describing problems is energy, not spent solving problems. They understood that time used explaining difficulties is time not used overcoming difficulties. When you catch yourself beginning to explain why something is hard, stop. When you notice yourself starting to justify why progress is slow, redirect. When you feel the urge to list all the obstacles you face, resist. Instead, ask one question. What is the next thing I can do to move forward? Then do that thing. Then ask the question again. Then do the next thing. Continue this pattern until you have moved so far forward that the obstacles no longer matter. This is not about being silent in all circumstances. This is about being strategic with your words. This is not about never seeking help. This is about not using explanations as substitutes for action. When you must speak, speak about solutions. When you must ask for assistance, ask for specific help with specific actions. When you must communicate about challenges, communicate about your plan for overcoming them. But never, ever use words as a replacement for work. Never use explanations as a substitute for execution. Never use descriptions of difficulty as justification for delay. The impossible situation does not care about your reasons. It does not listen to your explanations. It responds only to your actions. So give it actions. Give it relentless, focused, purposeful actions that move you closer to your goal regardless of the obstacles. Make no excuses. Offer no explanations. Let your persistence be your argument. Let your progress be your proof. Let your victory be your final word on the subject. This is the way of the warrior. This is the path to the impossible. This is how you prove that excuses are unnecessary when execution is unstoppable. Motivation is fleeting. Discipline remains. Hold to your training, especially when the odds turn dark. Motivation is like the weather. Sometimes it shines brightly and fills you with energy. Sometimes it disappears behind clouds and leaves you cold. Sometimes it storms through your life with sudden intensity. Sometimes it abandons you completely when you need it most. You cannot build a life on weather. You cannot base victory on conditions that change with your mood. You cannot depend on feelings that come and go like seasons. Discipline is different. Discipline is the foundation that remains solid when everything else shifts. Discipline is the anchor that holds you steady when the storms of difficulty try to blow you off course. Discipline is the constant that allows you to function at full capacity regardless of how you feel about it. When I trained in the mountains, there were days when I felt inspired, energetic, ready to push beyond my limits. Those were good days, but they were not the days that made me strong. The days that made me strong were the days when I felt tired, discouraged, unmotivated, and trained anyway. Those were the days when discipline revealed its true power. Those were the days when I discovered I could perform at high levels without feeling like it. Those were the days when I learned that my feelings about the work had nothing to do with my ability to do the work. Most people wait for motivation before they act. They wait to feel inspired before they begin. They wait for enthusiasm before they commit. They wait for certainty before they move forward. They spend their lives waiting for the perfect internal conditions that rarely come and never last. The warrior understands that action creates motivation more often than motivation creates action. The warrior knows that discipline generates the very feelings that people wait for before exercising discipline. The warrior recognizes that the solution to lack of motivation is not to wait for more motivation. It is to act without motivation. But here's what most people don't understand about discipline. It's not about forcing yourself to do things you hate. It's about creating systems that make the right choices easier than the wrong choices. It's about building habits that carry you forward when your emotions would hold you back. When facing impossible odds, your emotions will not be your ally. Fear will try to stop you. Doubt will try to turn you around. Discouragement will try to make you quit. Hope will try to make you wait for better conditions. Anger will try to make you act rashly. None of these emotions understand what victory requires. None of these feelings know how to navigate impossible situations. None of these reactions have the wisdom to guide you through the complexity of real challenge. But your training knows, your discipline knows, your systems know. The habits you have built through countless repetitions know exactly what to do even when your mind is confused and your heart is conflicted. This is why warriors train harder during peace than during war. This is why they practice their fundamentals more in safety than in danger. This is why they build their discipline when stakes are low, so they can access that discipline when stakes are high. The time to develop discipline is not when you need it most. The time to develop discipline is when you need it least. The time to practice your fundamentals is not when the pressure is on. The time to practice your fundamentals is when the pressure is off. When the impossible situation arrives, you will not have time to build new habits. You will not have energy to develop new disciplines. You will not have the luxury of starting from scratch. You will have only what you have already built. You will have only what you have already practiced. You will have only what has already become automatic. So build it now. Practice it now. Make it automatic now. Create the disciplines that will serve you when motivation fails. Establish the habits that will carry you when feelings falter. Develop the systems that will function when everything else breaks down. Train when you don't feel like training. Practice when you don't feel like practicing. Work when you don't feel like working. Show up when you don't feel like showing up. This is not punishment. This is preparation. This is not suffering. This is strength building. When the dark moments come, and they will come, you will not need to rely on how you feel. You will not need to depend on inspiration. You will not need to wait for motivation. You will simply do what you have trained yourself to do. You will follow the disciplines you have built. You will trust the systems you have created. This is how ordinary people accomplish extraordinary things. This is how the weak overcome the strong. This is how the impossible becomes inevitable. Anchor yourself in discipline. Build it daily. Practice it constantly. Trust it completely. When everything else fails, discipline will remain. When everything else changes, discipline will endure. When everything else abandons you, discipline will carry you home. Don't fight the mountain. Fight the next inch. Win enough inches, and you own the impossible. The impossible overwhelms because we see it as one giant obstacle instead of countless small steps. We look at the entire mountain and despair. We stare at the complete challenge and surrender before we begin. We calculate the full distance and decide it cannot be traveled. This is the thinking that defeats more warriors than any enemy ever could. This is the perspective that stops more progress than any obstacle ever has. This is the vision that kills more dreams than any opposition ever will. The master sees differently. The master does not look at the mountain. The master looks at the next foothold. The master does not measure the complete journey. The master focuses on the next step. The master does not calculate the total effort required. The master concentrates on the effort required right now. When I faced opponents whose skills seemed far beyond my own, I did not try to match their complete mastery in a single encounter. That would have been impossible. Instead, I focused on winning the next exchange. Just the next one, not the entire fight, just the next moment of the fight. I would win that moment. Then I would focus on winning the moment after that, then the moment after that. I would continue this process until I had won enough moments to win the entire encounter. The impossible victory became possible through countless small victories accumulated over time. This is not about thinking small. This is about acting strategically. This is not about lowering your standards. This is about raising your focus. This is not about accepting less. This is about achieving more through better method. The person who tries to climb the entire mountain in one leap will fail. The person who climbs 1 foot at a time will reach the summit. The person who tries to master everything at once will master nothing. The person who masters one element at a time will master everything. But here's what most people don't understand about this approach. It requires tremendous discipline to stay focused on the immediate step when the ultimate goal seems so far away. It requires tremendous patience to celebrate small progress when the final destination appears unchanged. It requires tremendous faith to continue taking small steps when the big picture shows little movement. Most people cannot maintain this discipline. They take a few small steps, then look up to see how much progress they have made toward the ultimate goal. When they see the goal still looks impossibly distant, they become discouraged. They conclude that small steps are insufficient. They abandon the only approach that actually works. The warrior avoids this trap by changing what he measures. Instead of measuring distance to the final goal, he measures completion of the immediate step. Instead of tracking progress toward the ultimate destination, he tracks success in the current moment. Instead of evaluating how much remains to be done, he evaluates how well he is doing what needs to be done right now. This shift in measurement changes everything. Instead of feeling overwhelmed by the size of the challenge, you feel empowered by your ability to handle the current requirement. Instead of feeling discouraged by the distance remaining, you feel encouraged by the progress you are making right now. Instead of feeling defeated by the magnitude of what lies ahead, you feel victorious in mastering what lies before you. Each small victory builds momentum. Each completed step builds confidence. Each mastered moment builds skill. The accumulation of these small wins creates something powerful, the unshakable knowledge that you can handle whatever comes next, because you have successfully handled everything that came before. When facing your impossible situation, resist the temptation to solve everything at once. Resist the urge to see the complete picture before you begin. Resist the need to understand the entire path before you take the first step. Instead, ask one simple question: what is the very next thing I need to do? Not the 10th thing, not the 100th thing. The next thing, the immediate thing, the thing that is right in front of you right now. Do that thing completely. Do it well. Do it with full attention and total commitment. Then ask the question again: what is the next thing I need to do now? Do that thing. Then ask again. This process may seem slow compared to trying to solve everything at once, but it is infinitely faster than being paralyzed by the size of our complete challenge. It is infinitely more effective than doing nothing, because everything seems impossible. The mountain is climbed one step at a time. The ocean is crossed one stroke at a time. The impossible is achieved one moment at a time. You do not need to see the entire path. You only need to see the next step clearly enough to take it. Take that step. Take it now. Take it completely. Then, take the next one. Continue this process until you discover that you have traveled impossible distances through nothing more complicated than putting one foot in front of the other. This is how the impossible becomes inevitable. One step at a time, one moment at a time, one victory at a time. Let others break under pressure. You must breathe in the tension and remain unmoved. Comfort is the enemy of greatness. Ease is the destroyer of strength. When you become too comfortable with your current situation, you lose the edge that made survival possible. When you become too accustomed to safety, you lose the skills that created that safety. The impossible situation brings discomfort. It brings uncertainty, it brings pain, it brings fear, it brings everything that comfort-seeking people spend their lives trying to avoid. This is why most people never face the impossible. They cannot tolerate the discomfort that comes with it. But discomfort is not your enemy. Discomfort is information. Discomfort is training. Discomfort is the signal that you are pushing beyond your current limits into territory where growth is possible. When I trained alone in the wilderness, I learned to become comfortable with hunger, with cold, with uncertainty, with danger. Not because I enjoyed these things, but because I understood that my ability to function effectively despite these discomforts would determine my survival when survival mattered most. The warrior does not seek comfort. The warrior seeks capability. The warrior does not try to eliminate discomfort. The warrior learns to perform at full capacity while experiencing discomfort. The warrior does not avoid difficult feelings. The warrior develops the ability to think clearly and act decisively while difficult feelings are present. This is a different relationship with discomfort than most people have. Most people treat discomfort as a problem to be solved. They see pain as a signal to stop. They interpret difficulty as evidence that they are on the wrong path. They view resistance as reason to choose something easier. The warrior sees discomfort as a training partner. The warrior sees pain as a teacher. The warrior sees difficulty as a strengthening exercise. The warrior sees resistance as confirmation that they are moving in a direction that matters. But here's what most people don't understand about becoming comfortable with discomfort. It's not about becoming numb to pain. It's not about pretending that difficult things are easy. It's not about suppressing your natural responses to challenging situations. It's about developing the ability to function effectively while experiencing whatever you are experiencing. It's about learning to think clearly while under pressure. It's about training yourself to make good decisions while feeling scared, tired, uncertain, or overwhelmed. This skill is developed through practice. You must deliberately put yourself in situations that are slightly more uncomfortable than what you are used to. You must gradually increase your tolerance for uncertainty, pressure, and difficulty. You must slowly expand your ability to perform. While experiencing discomfort, start small. Take cold showers. Exercise when you don't feel like it. Have difficult conversations you have been avoiding. Do tasks that are tedious or challenging. Practice maintaining your composure during minor frustrations. As your tolerance builds, increase the difficulty. Take on bigger challenges. Accept more responsibility. Put yourself in situations where failure is possible. Volunteer for assignments that push you beyond your current abilities. Each time you perform effectively despite discomfort, you build confidence in your ability to handle whatever comes next. Each time you succeed while experiencing difficulty, you prove to yourself that discomfort is not a barrier to performance. It is simply a condition under which performance happens. This training prepares you for the impossible situation. When that situation arrives, you will experience intense discomfort. You will feel pressure you have never felt before. You will face uncertainty that challenges everything you think you know about yourself and your capabilities. Others will break under this pressure. They will make poor decisions because they are too focused on escaping the discomfort. They will quit early because they cannot tolerate the pain. They will choose the easy path because they have never learned to function effectively while experiencing difficulty. But you will be different. You will breathe in the tension and remain calm. You will feel the pressure and think clearly anyway. You will experience the discomfort and act decisively despite it. You will face the impossible and respond with the same steady effectiveness you have trained yourself to maintain in all conditions. This is not about becoming emotionless. This is about becoming emotionally skilled. This is not about feeling nothing. This is about functioning regardless of what you feel. This is not about avoiding the human experience. This is about mastering the human experience. When you can perform at your best while experiencing your worst, you become dangerous to any obstacle. When you can function effectively under any condition, you become capable of achieving anything. When you can remain unmoved by pressure, you become the immovable force that impossible situations cannot defeat. Become comfortable with discomfort. Embrace the tension. Welcome the pressure. Use the difficulty as training for the even greater difficulties that await. This is how you prepare for the impossible. This is how you become impossible to defeat. In battle, there is no time to hope. You either trained well or you didn't. Preparation determines outcome. When the moment of truth arrives, you cannot add to your skills. You cannot improve your training. You cannot develop new abilities. You can only use what you have already built. You can only access what you have already practiced. You can only become what you have already prepared to become. This is why warriors spend more time preparing for battle than fighting battles. This is why they practice their fundamentals until those fundamentals become automatic. This is why they train in conditions harder than any battle they expect to face. The amateur trains until he gets it right once. The professional trains until he cannot get it wrong. The amateur practices when he feels motivated. The professional practices until motivation becomes irrelevant. The amateur prepares for what he expects to happen. The professional prepares for what could happen. When I faced life and death encounters, I did not hope my techniques would work. I knew they would work because I had tested them thousands of times under every condition I could create. I did not trust in luck or divine intervention. I trusted in preparation that had been repeated until it became instinct. But here's what most people don't understand about trusting preparation. It's not just about having skills, it's about having confidence in those skills. It's not just about knowing what to do. It's about trusting that you will do it correctly when pressure makes thinking difficult. Many people prepare extensively but fail to trust their preparation when it matters most. They practice for hours but doubt their abilities when performance time arrives. They develop real skills but abandon those skills in favor of improvisation when stakes are high. This lack of trust in preparation destroys more warriors than lack of preparation itself. When you have trained properly but refuse to trust that training, you create internal conflict at the moment when internal unity is most necessary. You divide your attention between executing your skills and questioning your skills. This division is fatal. The warrior who trusts his preparation moves with complete commitment. He does not second-guess his techniques in the middle of applying them. He does not wonder if his training was sufficient while he is using that training. He does not question his preparation while he is depending on that preparation. He acts with absolute confidence in what he has built through countless hours of practice. He executes with complete faith in abilities that have been tested and refined through relentless repetition. He performs with total trust in preparation that has been proven reliable through systematic development. This trust is not blind faith. This trust is earned through rigorous testing. You cannot trust preparation that has never been challenged. You cannot have confidence in skills that have never been pressed. You cannot rely on abilities that have never been stretched. Your preparation must be harder than your performance. Your training must be more difficult than your actual challenge. Your practice must create more pressure than your real situation will demand. Only then can you trust that preparation when everything depends on it. When preparing for the impossible, you must create training conditions that are more impossible than the impossible situation itself. You must practice under more pressure than the pressure you will face. You must develop your skills in environments more challenging than the environment where you will use those skills. This over-preparation creates unshakable confidence. When the real challenge arrives and it is easier than your training, you know you are ready. When the actual pressure is less than the pressure you practiced under, you know you can handle it. When the impossible situation is more manageable than your preparation scenarios, you know you will succeed. But you must also learn to trust what you have built. You must develop confidence in your own preparation. You must believe in your own development. You must have faith in your own abilities. This trust is built through honest assessment of your training. You must test your skills regularly. You must challenge your abilities consistently. You must push your limits systematically. Through this testing, you develop accurate knowledge of what you can do. Through this knowledge, you develop unshakable trust in your capabilities. When facing impossible odds, remember this principle. The time for preparation is before the battle, not during it. The time for building skills is before you need them, not after you discover you lack them. The time for developing confidence is through practice, not through hope. Trust your preparation. Trust your training. Trust your development. If you have prepared well, you have everything you need. If you have trained properly, you have every tool required. If you have developed systematically, you have every capability necessary. Do not doubt what you have built. Do not question what you have practiced. Do not fear using what you have developed. Trust the preparation. Execute the training. Become what you have practiced becoming. This is how preparation transforms into performance. This is how training becomes triumph. This is how the impossible becomes inevitable. Fear is noise. Anger is weakness. Emotion belongs in your poetry, not in your blade. When death approaches, emotion becomes luxury you cannot afford. When victory depends on precision, feeling becomes distraction you cannot indulge. When the impossible demands perfect execution, emotion becomes the enemy of effectiveness. This does not mean you become inhuman. This does not mean you feel nothing. This means you feel everything without being controlled by anything you feel. This means you experience emotion without letting emotion dictate your actions. This means you acknowledge feelings without allowing feelings to compromise your performance. The untrained warrior fights with emotion. He strikes in anger. He defends in fear. He advances with excitement. He retreats with despair. His actions are reactions to his feelings. His strategy is determined by his emotional state. His performance rises and falls with his mood. This warrior is predictable. This warrior is vulnerable. This warrior is already defeated by his own internal chaos before his external enemy strikes a single blow. The master warrior acts from clarity, not emotion. He strikes from calculation, not anger. He defends from strategy, not fear. He advances from purpose, not excitement. He adjusts from wisdom, not despair. His emotions inform him, but do not control him. His feelings provide information, but do not determine his actions. When I faced opponents who fought with emotion, I could read their intentions before they acted. Their anger telegraphed their attacks. Their fear revealed their weaknesses. Their excitement created openings in their defense. Their emotions became my advantage because emotions create patterns, and patterns can be exploited. But here's what most people don't understand about remaining emotionless in action. It's not about suppressing all feeling. It's about separating feeling from function. It's not about becoming cold. It's about becoming clear. It's not about eliminating emotion. It's about preventing emotion from interfering with execution. Emotion has its place. It motivates you to begin training. It drives you to continue when training becomes difficult. It connects you to purposes larger than yourself. It reminds you why victory matters. But in the moment of action, emotion must step aside and let skill perform. This separation requires practice. You must learn to feel fear without being paralyzed by fear. You must learn to experience anger without being blinded by anger. You must learn to sense excitement without being scattered by excitement. You must learn to acknowledge doubt without being stopped by doubt. Start this practice in low-stakes situations. When you feel frustrated during routine tasks, continue performing those tasks effectively despite the frustration. When you feel anxious about minor challenges, handle those challenges competently anyway. When you feel excited about small victories, maintain your focus on the next requirement. As your ability to separate feeling from function develops, gradually increase the stakes. Practice maintaining emotional equilibrium during more significant challenges. Learn to function effectively while experiencing stronger emotions. Train yourself to perform at full capacity regardless of your internal emotional weather. This skill becomes crucial when facing impossible odds. The impossible situation will generate intense emotions. You will feel fear about the outcome. You will feel anger about the unfairness. You will feel doubt about your abilities. You will feel pressure about the consequences. If you let these emotions control your actions, you will make poor decisions. If you let these feelings dictate your strategy, you will choose ineffective approaches. If you let these reactions determine your responses, you will compromise your performance when performance matters most. But if you can feel these emotions without being ruled by them, you maintain access to your best thinking and your most effective skills. If you can experience these feelings without being distracted by them, you can focus completely on what the situation requires. If you can acknowledge these reactions without being controlled by them, you can act from wisdom instead of impulse. The emotionless warrior is not the warrior who feels nothing. The emotionless warrior is the warrior whose actions are not determined by feelings. The emotionless warrior is the warrior who can think clearly and act effectively regardless of emotional weather. This emotional mastery creates tremendous advantage. While your opponents are being pushed around by their feelings, you are guided by your strategy. While they are reacting to their emotional impulses, you are executing your planned responses. While they are compromised by internal chaos, you are empowered by internal clarity. When facing the impossible, remember this principle. Your emotions will try to take control. Fear will try to stop you. Anger will try to rush you. Excitement will try to scatter you. Doubt will try to confuse you. Do not let any of them succeed. Feel whatever you feel, but act from what you know. Experience whatever emotions arise, but respond from what you have learned. Acknowledge whatever reactions occur, but execute from what you have practiced. Save your emotions for after the victory. Pour your feelings into your celebration. Express your humanity in your relationships. But in the moment of action, be pure function, be clear strategy, be perfect execution. This is how emotion becomes fuel instead of interference. This is how feeling becomes information instead of control. This is how the impossible becomes inevitable through emotionless precision. Ignore the size of the enemy. Ignore the crowd. Control your breath, your blade, your decision. The greatest waste of warrior energy is focusing on things beyond your influence. The fastest path to defeat is obsessing over factors you cannot change. The surest way to lose control is trying to control what is uncontrollable. When facing impossible odds, you will be surrounded by things you cannot control. You cannot control your enemy's strength. You cannot control their numbers. You cannot control their advantages. You cannot control the terrain. You cannot control the weather. You cannot control the opinions of observers. But there are things you can control completely. You can control your preparation. You can control your positioning. You can control your breathing. You can control your focus. You can control your decisions. You can control your responses. You can control your effort. The warrior who wastes energy trying to control the uncontrollable has less energy available for controlling the controllable. The warrior who focuses on what others are doing has less attention available for what he is doing. The warrior who worries about external factors has less clarity for internal factors. When I faced multiple opponents, I did not waste mental energy, calculating their exact numbers or measuring their precise skills. These factors were beyond my control once the engagement began. Instead, I focused completely on elements within my immediate influence: my distance from each opponent, my angle of approach, my timing of attacks, my breathing rhythm, my grip on my sword. By controlling what I could control perfectly, I influenced what I could not control directly. By managing my positioning expertly, I limited their numerical advantage. By timing my attacks precisely, I prevented their coordination. By controlling my own factors completely, I disrupted their factors effectively. This is the secret that most people miss. You gain influence over uncontrollable factors by mastering controllable factors. You affect external circumstances by perfecting internal circumstances. You change what you cannot directly control by excelling at what you can directly control. But here's what most people don't understand about this principle. It requires tremendous discipline to maintain focus on controllable factors when uncontrollable factors seem so much more important. It requires tremendous courage to ignore the size of the challenge when that size seems overwhelming. It requires tremendous wisdom to concentrate on your small sphere of influence when vast forces appear to determine everything. Most people do the opposite. They spend their time and energy obsessing over things beyond their influence while neglecting things within their control. They worry constantly about what others are doing while ignoring what they themselves should be doing. They focus on external factors they cannot change while overlooking internal factors they can change completely. This misplaced focus creates anxiety without producing results. It generates stress without improving performance. It wastes energy without increasing effectiveness. It is the thinking pattern of victims, not victors. The warrior thinks differently. The warrior asks not what is happening to me, but how will I respond to what is happening? The warrior asks not what are others doing, but what should I be doing? The warrior asks not what cannot be changed, but what can I change right now? This shift in focus transforms everything. Instead of feeling helpless about uncontrollable factors, you feel empowered by controllable factors. Instead of being overwhelmed by external circumstances, you become focused on internal choices. Instead of being paralyzed by the size of the challenge, you become energized by the precision of your response. When facing your impossible situation, make this distinction clearly. List everything about the situation that you cannot control. Then stop thinking about those things. They are not your responsibility. They are not your concern. They are not your problem to solve. Then list everything about the situation that you can control. Focus all your attention on these factors. Direct all your energy toward these elements. Invest all your effort in these areas. These are your responsibility. These are your opportunity. These are your path to victory. Your breath. You control this completely. Your posture. You control this absolutely. Your focus, you control this entirely. Your decisions, you control these totally. Your effort, you control this perfectly. Your response, you control this utterly. These may seem like small things compared to the vast forces arrayed against you, but these small things, controlled perfectly, create large effects. These personal factors, managed expertly, influence impersonal factors powerfully. These internal elements, mastered completely, change external elements dramatically. The enemy's size does not matter if your positioning is perfect. The crowd's opinion does not matter if your focus is complete. The unfavorable conditions do not matter if your responses are optimal. What you cannot control becomes irrelevant when what you can control is excellent. Control your breath, control your blade, control your decision, control your effort, control your response, control your focus. Control what is yours to control with such excellence that everything else bends to accommodate your mastery. This is how small becomes large. This is how personal becomes powerful. This is how the controllable conquers the uncontrollable. This is how the impossible becomes inevitable through perfect control of what can be controlled. Don't resist the hardship. Meet it. Welcome it. It's the only path forward. Most people approach difficulty as something to be endured. They see hardship as something to be survived. They view challenges as obstacles to overcome as quickly as possible, so they can return to comfort and ease. This attitude toward difficulty guarantees that difficulty will remain difficult. This approach to hardship ensures that hardship will continue to cause suffering. This perspective on challenges means that challenges will always feel like burdens instead of opportunities. The warrior has a different relationship with difficulty. The warrior does not merely endure hardship, he embraces it. The warrior does not simply survive challenges, he welcomes them. The warrior does not just overcome obstacles, he thanks them for the strength they will build. This is not masochism. This is not stupidity. This is wisdom born from understanding what hardship actually does for those who meet it properly. Hardship reveals who you really are beneath all the pretense. Challenge strips away everything that is not essential and shows you your true core. Difficulty burns off everything that is weak and leaves only what is strong. Obstacles force you to develop capabilities you never knew you possessed. When I chose the path of the sword, I could have sought an easy life. I could have found a patron who would provide comfort and security. I could have avoided dangerous encounters and lived safely. But I understood that such a life would also keep me weak. Such safety would prevent the development of real strength. Such comfort would ensure I remained ordinary instead of becoming extraordinary. So I chose the harder path deliberately. I sought out the most challenging opponents. I put myself in the most difficult situations. I embraced every hardship that could make me stronger, not because I enjoyed suffering, but because I understood that suffering, properly met, creates strength that cannot be developed any other way. But here's what most people don't understand about embracing the fight. It's not about seeking hardship for its own sake. It's about recognizing that the fight is inevitable and choosing to meet it with the right attitude. It's about understanding that resistance to what must be faced only makes the facing more difficult. Life will bring you challenges whether you want them or not. Obstacles will appear in your path whether you invite them or not. Difficulties will test you whether you feel ready or not. You cannot choose whether the fight will come. You can only choose how you will meet it when it arrives. Most people waste tremendous energy resisting what cannot be avoided. They spend precious time complaining about challenges that must be faced. They exhaust themselves fighting against the necessity of fighting, instead of using that energy to fight effectively. This resistance makes everything harder. When you resist the presence of a challenge, you must fight both the challenge itself and your own resistance to facing it. When you complain about the necessity of hardship, you must deal with both the hardship and your emotional reaction to the hardship. When you wish the fight would go away, you must battle both your opponent and your own desire to avoid the battle. The warrior eliminates this double burden by embracing what must be faced. Instead of wasting energy resisting the challenge, he directs all energy toward meeting the challenge effectively. Instead of fighting his circumstances, he focuses on excelling within his circumstances. Instead of wishing things were different, he commits to becoming excellent at handling things as they are. This embrace transforms the entire experience. What was a burden becomes an opportunity. What was suffering becomes strengthening. What was an obstacle becomes a stepping stone. What was a problem becomes a platform for growth. When you embrace the fight, you also embrace what the fight will make you become. You welcome not just the challenge, but the person that's successfully meeting. The challenge will require you to become. You accept not just the difficulty, but the strength that overcoming the difficulty will develop within you. This is why warriors often speak fondly of their hardest battles, not because the battles were pleasant, but because those battles forced them to discover capabilities they never knew they had. Not because the challenges were enjoyable, but because those challenges created strength that could not have been built any other way. When facing impossible odds, remember this principle. Do not waste energy wishing the situation were different. Do not exhaust yourself resisting what must be faced. Do not fight against the necessity of fighting. Instead, embrace the challenge completely. Welcome the opportunity to discover what you are truly capable of becoming. Thank the situation for forcing you to develop abilities you would never have built in easier circumstances. Meet the hardship with gratitude for what it will teach you. Face the difficulty with appreciation for what it will build in you. Embrace the fight with enthusiasm for who it will require you to become. This shift in attitude changes everything. The same challenge that would break someone who resists it becomes the making of someone who embraces it. The same difficulty that destroys those who fight against it strengthens those who fight through it with the right mindset. Embrace the fight. Welcome the challenge. Thank the hardship. This is not just the path through the impossible. This is the path to becoming someone for whom the impossible is just another day's work. Victory is not always survival. Sometimes it's how you choose to fight. Own that choice. There will come moments when you have done everything correctly and the outcome still goes against you. There will be times when you have prepared perfectly, executed flawlessly, and given everything you have, and it still may not be enough to achieve the result you wanted. In these moments, most people feel defeated. They believe that because they did not achieve their intended outcome, they have failed. They think that because external circumstances did not align with their efforts were wasted. They conclude that because they could not control the final result, they had no real power at all. This thinking is the final trap that destroys warriors who have overcome every other obstacle. This belief is the last enemy that defeats those who have conquered every external challenge. This perspective is the ultimate weakness that breaks those who have shown strength in every other area. The true warrior understands something deeper about victory and defeat. The true warrior knows that there are aspects of every situation beyond anyone's control, and there are aspects within complete control. The true warrior knows that real victory comes from owning completely the aspects that can be controlled, regardless of what happens to the aspects that cannot be controlled. You can control your preparation. You can control your effort. You can control your decisions. You can control your responses. You can control your courage. You can control your integrity. You can control how you choose to face whatever you must face. These elements are yours, completely. No external force can take them from you. No unfavorable outcome can diminish them. No opponent can corrupt them. No circumstance can compromise them. They belong to you absolutely, and what you do with them defines who you are, regardless of what happens around you. When I faced opponents whose skill matched or exceeded my own, I understood that victory in the traditional sense might not be possible. I might not be able to defeat them decisively. I might not be able to walk away unharmed. I might not be able to achieve the outcome I preferred, but I could control how I met the challenge. I could control the quality of my effort. I could control the integrity of my approach. I could control the courage of my response. I could control the excellence of my execution. These things were mine to own completely regardless of the final result. This ownership of the controllable elements created a different kind of victory. Even when the external outcome was not what I wanted, I could know with certainty that I had given everything I had to give. I could know that I had fought with complete integrity. I could know that I had honored my training and my principles. I could know that I had become the best version of myself that the situation allowed. This knowledge created unshakable strength. This certainty generated unbreakable confidence. This ownership produced untouchable self-respect. No external result could take these things away because they were not dependent on external results. But here's what most people don't understand about owning the outcome. It's not about accepting defeat. It's about redefining victory. It's not about lowering your standards. It's about recognizing what standards are actually within your power to meet. It's not about giving up on results. It's about taking responsibility for the elements that create results. When you own your preparation completely, you have won regardless of what your opponent brings. When you own your effort completely, you have succeeded regardless of external obstacles. When you own your choices completely, you have triumphed regardless of circumstances beyond your control. This ownership requires tremendous courage because it means you cannot blame external factors for internal failures. It means you cannot use unfavorable circumstances as excuses for poor choices. It means you cannot hide behind bad luck when you have not done your best with what you could control. But this ownership also provides tremendous power because it means external factors cannot diminish internal victories. It means unfavorable circumstances cannot steal the value of excellent choices. It means bad luck cannot corrupt the strength that comes from giving your absolute best effort. When facing impossible odds, remember this principle. The ultimate outcome may not be in your hands, but your response to whatever happens is completely in your hands. You may not be able to control whether you win or lose in conventional terms, but you can control whether you fight with honor, courage, and integrity. Own that choice completely. Own your preparation. Own your effort. Own your decisions. Own your courage. Own your response. Own everything that is yours to own with such completeness that no external result can diminish what you have accomplished internally. This is victory that cannot be taken away. This is success that does not depend on circumstances. This is triumph that belongs to you regardless of what happens around you. Sometimes survival is victory. Sometimes defeat with honor is victory. Sometimes giving everything you have is victory, even when everything you have is not enough to change the external result. Own the outcome that is yours to own. Fight the fight that is yours to fight. Choose the response that is yours to choose. This is how you win even when you lose. This is how you succeed even when you fail. This is how you triumph even when the impossible remains impossible. Every mistake is instruction. Every failure is a new form. Reflect, adjust, return sharper. The warrior who learns nothing from defeat will face the same defeat again. The warrior who gains no wisdom from failure will repeat the same failure endlessly. The warrior who extracts no lesson from mistakes will make the same mistakes until they destroy him. But the warrior who treats every encounter as education becomes stronger with each clash. The warrior who views every setback as instruction becomes wiser with each failure. The warrior who sees every mistake as information becomes more skilled with each error. This is the difference between warriors who improve and warriors who stagnate. This is the difference between those who grow stronger over time and those who remain weak despite experience. This is the difference between masters and amateurs, regardless of how long each has been practicing. The amateur makes excuses for failure. The master extracts lessons from failure. The amateur avoids situations where mistakes are possible. The master seeks situations where learning is accelerated. The amateur treats errors as evidence of inadequacy. The master treats errors as data for improvement. When I suffered defeat in my early encounters, I could have concluded that I lacked talent. I could have decided that my opponents were simply superior. I could have accepted that victory was beyond my capabilities. Instead, I studied each defeat like a scholar studies a text. I examined each failure like a craftsman examines a flawed creation. What exactly went wrong? At what moment did my strategy fail? Which of my assumptions proved incorrect? What did my opponents see that I missed? How did they exploit the weakness I did not know I had? What would I do differently if I faced the same situation again? These questions transformed defeat into education. These inquiries turned failure into instruction. This analysis converted setbacks into steps forward. What could have been the end of my development became the acceleration of my development. But here's what most people don't understand about learning from failure. It requires brutal honesty about your own performance. It demands that you look clearly at your mistakes without the protection of ego or the comfort of excuses. It asks you to see yourself as you actually performed, not as you wish you had performed. Most people cannot tolerate this level of honest self-examination. They protect themselves from the pain of seeing their failures clearly by creating stories that make those failures someone else's fault. They avoid the discomfort of acknowledging their mistakes by focusing instead on external factors beyond their control. This protection feels better in the moment, but it prevents learning. This comfort preserves ego but destroys growth. This avoidance reduces immediate pain but guarantees future repetition of the same pain. The warrior chooses the harder path. The warrior accepts the immediate discomfort of honest self-assessment. In order to gain the long-term benefit of accelerated improvement, the warrior endures the short-term pain of acknowledging mistakes in order to prevent the long-term pain of repeating those mistakes. This choice requires courage. It takes strength to look clearly at your own failures. It takes discipline to analyze your own mistakes without self-pity or self-hatred. It takes wisdom to extract useful lessons from painful experiences without becoming discouraged by those experiences. But this courage creates tremendous advantage. While others repeat the same errors because they refuse to acknowledge them, you eliminate errors through honest recognition. While others remain weak in the same areas because they will not examine those areas, you strengthen weak areas through systematic analysis. While others stagnate because they avoid difficult feedback, you accelerate because you seek the most difficult feedback available. Every encounter teaches something if you are willing to learn. Every mistake reveals something if you are willing to see. Every failure offers something if you are willing to receive. The question is not whether lessons are available. Lessons are always available. The question is whether you are willing to do the work required to extract those lessons. After each significant challenge, create time for reflection. What went well? What could have gone better? What would you do differently next time? What did you learn about yourself? What did you learn about the situation? What did you learn about your approach? Write down these lessons. Study them. Remember them. Test them in future encounters. Let each experience make you more skillful than you were before that experience occurred. When facing impossible odds, remember that even if you do not achieve your desired outcome, you can achieve something valuable. You can become more capable of achieving that outcome next time. You can gain knowledge that makes future success more likely. You can develop skills that turn today's impossible into tomorrow's inevitable. This perspective transforms every encounter into progress, regardless of immediate results. This approach turns every setback into setup for future advancement. This mindset converts every clash into education that makes you more dangerous to every future obstacle. Learn from every clash. Study every mistake. Extract wisdom from every failure. reflect deeply, adjust systematically, return sharper than you left. This is how warriors improve. This is how masters are made. This is how the impossible becomes possible through accumulated wisdom earned one lesson at a time. Every clash is a teacher if you are willing to be a student. Every mistake is instruction if you are willing to be instructed. Every failure is formation if you are willing to be formed. Learn, always learn. Let every encounter make you stronger for the next encounter. Uncertainty breaks most men. You will not be among them. You meet the unknown like an old opponent, calmly. The unknown terrifies because it cannot be controlled, predicted, or prepared for completely. It represents everything that could go wrong, everything that might happen, everything that remains beyond your ability to influence or understand. It is the realm of infinite possibility, including infinite possibilities for failure, pain, and loss. Most people spend their lives trying to eliminate uncertainty. They seek guarantees before they act. They demand certainty before they commit. They want to know the outcome before they begin the journey. They try to map every step before they take the first step. They attempt to control every variable before they enter the game. This desire for certainty is understandable, but it is also impossible to satisfy completely. No matter how much you plan, some uncertainty will remain. No matter how thoroughly you prepare, some unknown factors will persist. No matter how carefully you analyze, some elements will remain unpredictable. The warrior who waits for complete certainty will wait forever. The warrior who demands perfect predictability will never act. The warrior who requires guaranteed outcomes will accomplish nothing, because life offers no such guarantees. Life provides no such certainty. Life gives no such predictability. Instead, life offers something different, the opportunity to develop the ability to function effectively despite uncertainty. Life provides the chance to build skill at making good decisions with incomplete information. Life gives the possibility of becoming someone who can thrive in unpredictable conditions. When I walked the warrior's path, I faced countless situations where I could not know what would happen next. I encountered opponents whose capabilities I could not fully assess beforehand. I entered territories where danger could appear from any direction. I made decisions with consequences I could not completely foresee. I learned that uncertainty was not my enemy. It was simply the condition under which all important action takes place. I discovered that the unknown was not something to be eliminated. It was something to be navigated skillfully. I understood that unpredictability was not a problem to be solved. It was a reality to be mastered. This mastery began with changing my relationship to uncertainty itself. Instead of seeing the unknown as a threat, I began to see it as an opportunity. Instead of viewing unpredictability as a weakness in my planning, I began to view it as a source of advantage over opponents who were less comfortable with ambiguity. But here's what most people don't understand about enduring uncertainty. It's not about pretending you know things you don't know. It's not about false confidence in unpredictable situations. It's not about eliminating all anxiety about unknown outcomes. It's about developing the ability to act decisively despite not knowing everything. It's about building the skill to function effectively while acknowledging uncertainty. It's about creating the strength to move forward confidently even when you cannot see the complete path ahead. This ability is developed through practice. You must deliberately put yourself in situations where you cannot predict all outcomes. You must gradually increase your tolerance for ambiguity. You must systematically build your capacity to make good decisions with incomplete information. Start with small uncertainties and build your tolerance gradually. Make decisions without complete information when stakes are low. Act despite ambiguity in situations where mistakes are recoverable. Practice functioning effectively while acknowledging that you cannot control or predict everything. As your comfort with uncertainty grows, increase the level of ambiguity you can handle. Take on challenges where outcomes are unpredictable. Accept, responsibilities where you cannot guarantee results. Commit to paths where you cannot see all the steps ahead of time. Each successful navigation of uncertainty builds confidence in your ability to handle future uncertainty. Each effective decision made with incomplete information proves that complete information is not required for good decision-making. Each positive outcome achieved, despite unpredictable factors, demonstrates that unpredictability does not prevent progress. When facing impossible odds, you will encounter tremendous uncertainty. You will not know if your efforts will be sufficient. You will not know what obstacles will appear. You will not know how others will respond. You will not know what resources will become available. You will not know what opportunities will emerge. Others will be paralyzed by this uncertainty. They will wait for more information before acting. They will demand guarantees before committing. They will require certainty before moving forward. They will remain stuck while you advance, because you will have learned to move forward despite uncertainty. You will have developed the ability to act effectively with incomplete information. You will have built the strength to function confidently in unpredictable conditions. You will meet the unknown like an old opponent, someone you have faced before, and learn to handle skillfully. You will approach uncertainty like a familiar challenge, something you have practiced navigating successfully. You will engage with ambiguity like a known quantity, a condition you have mastered through experience. Uncertainty breaks most men because they have never learned to be comfortable with discomfort. They have never developed skill at functioning despite ambiguity. They have never built strength for operating in unpredictable conditions. You will not be among them. You will endure the unknown without flinching. You will navigate uncertainty without panic. You will function in ambiguity without paralysis. This is how you move forward when others remain frozen. This is how you advance when others retreat. This is how you make the impossible possible, despite never knowing for certain that it was possible. You do not face the impossible, you become it. To others, you will look like a myth, but you will know you simply never stopped. There comes a moment in every warrior's development when something fundamental shifts. You stop being someone who occasionally overcomes difficult challenges and become someone for whom overcoming difficult challenges is simply what you do. You stop being a person who sometimes achieves impossible things and become a person who makes impossible things routine. This transformation is not magical. It is not mysterious. It is the inevitable result of applying everything you have learned consistently over time. It is what happens when all the principles become integrated into a single unified approach to existence. It is the natural outcome of refusing to surrender for long enough that surrender becomes unthinkable. When others look at what you accomplish, they will not understand how it was possible. They will see only the end result. The mountain climbed, the opponent defeated, the obstacle overcome, the goal achieved. They will not see the thousands of small decisions that made that result inevitable. They will not understand the years of preparation that made that moment possible. To them, you will appear to possess some special quality they lack, some unique talent, some extraordinary gift, some supernatural ability. They will create stories about what makes you different. They will invent explanations for capabilities they cannot comprehend. They will call you lucky, blessed, chosen, or simply beyond normal human limitation. But you will know the truth. You will know that nothing you have accomplished was beyond human capability. You will know that every skill you developed was available to anyone willing to pay the price for developing it. You will know that every victory you achieved was possible for anyone willing to do what victory required. The difference was not in your starting point. The difference was not in your natural gifts. The difference was not in your circumstances. The difference was in your response to the same challenges that stop others. The difference was in your willingness to continue when continuation seemed pointless. The difference was in your refusal to accept the word impossible as final. You became impossible not by transcending human limitation, but by refusing to be limited by what other humans accept as limitations. You achieved the impossible not by gaining superhuman powers, but by using human powers more completely than others use them. You accomplished what others call impossible, not through magic, but through the systematic application of proven principles over extended time. But here's what most people don't understand about becoming the impossible. It's not a destination you reach. It's a way of being you develop. It's not a single achievement you accomplish. It's a pattern of response you establish. It's not a moment of transformation that changes everything. It's a series of choices that gradually change everything. Every time you choose discipline over comfort, you become slightly more impossible. Every time you choose action over hesitation, you become slightly more impossible. Every time you choose growth over safety, you become slightly more impossible. Every time you choose to continue when others quit, you become slightly more impossible. These choices accumulate. These decisions compound. These responses build upon each other until they create something that appears extraordinary to those who have not made the same choices, the same decisions, the same responses. The warrior who becomes impossible is not the warrior who achieves one great victory. The warrior who becomes impossible is the warrior who achieves countless small victories so consistently that large victories become inevitable. The warrior who becomes impossible is the warrior who makes excellence so habitual that excellence becomes effortless. When you reach this level of development, people will ask you to explain your methods. They will want to know your secrets. They will seek the formula that created your results. They will search for the shortcut that leads to your level of capability, but there is no secret beyond what you have learned. There is no formula beyond what you have practiced. There is no shortcut beyond what you have traveled. The path to becoming impossible is not hidden. It is simply difficult. The method is not mysterious. It is simply demanding. The way is not secret. It is simply long. You began with the will to win when others accepted defeat. You became the weapon when others remained dependent on external tools. You learned to see clearly when others remained blinded by emotion. You adapted when others remained rigid. You used force against itself when others tried to match force with force. You cut away the unnecessary when others accumulated the useless. You made no excuses when others explained their limitations. You anchored in discipline when others relied on motivation. You mastered one step at a time when others tried to leap impossible distances. You became comfortable with discomfort when others avoided all difficulty. You trusted your preparation when others doubted their abilities. You remained emotionless in action when others were controlled by feelings. You focused on what you could control when others obsessed over what they could not control. You embraced the fight when others resisted the necessity of fighting. You owned the outcome when others blamed external circumstances. You learned from every clash when others ignored their mistakes. You endured the unknown without flinching when others were paralyzed by uncertainty. And through all of this, you simply never stopped. You never accepted that impossible was final. You never surrendered to what others called unchangeable. This is how you become the impossible. Not through magic, but through method. Not through luck, but through persistence. Not through special gifts, but through complete commitment to developing the gifts you already possess. You already have what it takes. Now, go prove it. If this message spoke to you, subscribe for more powerful mindset content. Let us know in the comments what part hit you the hardest. You already have what it takes. Now, go prove it.